Hi, welcome. In this lesson, what we want to do is we're going to use make.com to automate process mapping from interview transcripts. This is a super powerful, super fairly simple workflow to demonstrate how make.com can be used to save you dozens, maybe even over time, hundreds of hours in taking your stakeholder interviews and turning them into, at least for this example, text-based business processes. We've got some requirements. We've talked about these before. Hopefully you've got everything set up and ready to go. If you still need to do that, please just follow along because it's going to be moving very, very quickly so that you can be able to do this yourself later on. All right, before we do anything, as usual, what we need to do is we need to create a workflow plan. So this is what we're going to do. And let me show you real quick. We're going to take a stakeholder interview. That's just a natural language conversation like this one. You can see here. This is the BA asking, does anything ever break there? I mean, label doesn't match, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, about 8% of the time, usually with Amazon Warehouse. This is just natural language. And what we want to do is turn this into step one, they do this. Step two, they do that. Step three, they do this. Step four, they do that, and so on and so forth. If this, then that, blah, blah, blah. So what we are going to do is here's our workflow plan. We want to look for new transcripts in the Dropbox folder. We're going to use Dropbox for this example. And it's looking for a transcript just like the example that I just showed you there. We want to pull that new transcript into Make. We want to turn that transcript. We want to take from it, extract out of it a business process first draft from that transcript. And then what we want to do is we want to output that business process first draft into a very different Dropbox folder. That's what we want to build. So let's get started and dive right in. When you log into make.com, you're going to get to this dashboard or something very similar to it. What we want to do is we want to create scenario like we talked about last time. A scenario is made up of modules, actions, webhooks, all sorts of different things that you can do that make up a workflow. But for make.com, they call their workflows scenarios. Here is just a board on which you can set the steps. And when you create a new scenario, when you're not using a template, which we're not using here, it's going to give you a very first purple button to say, please, let's start this process off. So let's see how we want to start this off. We want to look for new transcripts in our Dropbox folder. So let's go back here. Dropbox is one of the options. You can see there are just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different other applications that can be used. And inside each of them, there are a dozen or more different actions you can do within with that particular connection. So what we want to do, like we said, we're watching for files. So I'm going to click Watch Files. This connection here has got my information. Yours is going to be different. This is my Dropbox connection. If you did not attend the last time, you missed it, you want to click this Add button and just log into your Dropbox to connect it. You may not have time to do it right now. What we want to do is we want to select from a list, not search by keyword. We want to select from a list because we're interested in any new transcript that's falling into a very specific folder. What specific folder? We go to the folder path, click here to choose folder, and my folder path is going to be different from your folder path inside Dropbox, but I'm going to put my stakeholder interviews in a stakeholder interviews folder. Now, this next option, watch also subfolders, I'm going to put no. You may have a reason why you want to put yes. I put no because inside my stakeholder interviews folder, I've got an archive folder. And the last thing I want to do is to pull old archived stakeholder interviews into this workflow and creating business process maps I don't need. So keeping that as no. This is the other important thing. The limit, I want to keep the limit at 1 because I want one stakeholder interview to create for me one text-based business process map. I don't want multiple stakeholder interviews being combined to create a very confusing business process map. I just want a one. So I'm going to click Save to limit it there. And then we're just going to leave this as from now on. I'm going to save this first module, and now we are done. We got to move on to the second module. Let's look at our plan. Our step 2, pull the new transcript into Make. So let's do that. Now we're pulling the transcript from Dropbox, so we need another Dropbox module. What we want to do is we want to download a file from Dropbox, and it's the new file that it just found. So this is my Dropbox connection. Again, yours is going to look different. What we want to do, and this is confusing, we want to map a file path. We do not want to select a file. I know it's confusing. I'm not quite sure why the nomenclature is the way it is, but we want to map a file path. Now we want to identify where are we getting this file from. So when we click inside this box, it brings us this pop-up. And inside this pop-up, there's lots of tools up here to explore. We're going to stick to just these. This is pulling all the data that the previous module, the Dropbox Watch Files module, all of the data that that module is providing or making available to us. We need to choose what is it that we want to grab. We want to grab, for this example, the path lower. I'm going to bring that over there. What that is path lower is the file path for the folder that we're, the file path, the folder path for the file that we are looking for, the new file that has just been found inside our assigned folder. Another thing to look out for, and lower means it's just changing it to lowercase. It's nothing too big important there. What we want to avoid is we don't want to put any of these backslashes inside this file path, because that will confuse make.com and Dropbox as to where you are trying to look. So once we've got that in, and we can click save, we've got 2 modules done. Now we got to go to our third. The third module is my favorite. All right, so we're going to extract a business process from a business process first draft from that transcript. Remember, this transcript is just natural language conversation. We want to pull out of that an actual business process. So how do we do that? We're going to add another module. We are using ChatGPT. You could use a different LLM if you wanted, but this is the one we set up yesterday. We're going to use ChatGPT to do this. What are we asking this module to do? We're asking it to take the text from the transcript and generate a response of the actual steps that were identified in that stakeholder interview, right? So we're generating a response. There's lots of different things that you can do with ChatGPT. It's even multimodal, so lots of fun. Generate a response is what we want. This is the API connection to OpenAI. Hopefully you set that up last time. Here are, and I should add my name for my OpenAI API is different from what yours is. Let's go down to model. It offers, I think, what might be just about all the models, if not all the models that are available. We're just going to use 3.5 turbo. We don't need anything very powerful, and we don't want to spend a lot of money on producing these. So, and 3.5 turbo actually is working just fine for me. We're creating a text prompt, not an image or file or reusable prompt or any of that. We just want a text prompt, fairly simple. Now, fun. Here's the prompt, right? And we talked in a previous lesson about many different best practices for creating prompts. One of the cool, fun, really efficient ways that I like to use to develop a prompt is I write a prompt to get a prompt. And for this example, I used Google Gemini. You can use any LLM to do it. I went to Google Gemini. I asked it, what is an ideal prompt for ChatGPT 3.5 Turbo? And it gave me this really cool prompt right here. So I'm just going to copy this one. I'm going to bring it right here. I'm going to go into this box. I'm going to paste the prompt. Now, you can see here, this is the prompt that it's asking 3.5 Turbo. But the important part is actually all the way down here at the bottom. Start a transcript, end of transcript. Right now, it's just getting this text. Map the transcript text here from the previous module. And what we want it to do is instead, we want it to actually get that text. So I'm just going to go here. This is our module 1, Dropbox Watch Files. Here's our module 2, Dropbox Download a File. These are the fields that are being made available from that module. It's the file size, which we don't need. The file name, we don't need. We need the data. So I'm going to click and drag data in here. Now we've got it. Max output tokens, I'm just going to put 1,000. I've not used anywhere near that many. What that does, it just keeps it so that ChatGPT doesn't go off the rails and start doing 100,000, 200,000 tokens and costing lots of money. I'm just going to max that out at 1,000. We don't need to use any tools, so I'm going to click save. Now we've got 3 of our 4 modules done. Let's look at our step 4. Step 4 is output that business process first draft to a different Dropbox folder. So ChatGPT is creating text, but it's not creating a text file. We need to create a file. So let's click over here. Again, we're going into Dropbox, and I'm just going to do a search down the bottom here. Different way to find what you need to do inside these. It's create, overwrite a text file. I click on that. You can see there's that Dropbox connection again. That's mine. Yours is going to look different. We want to select it to create. So there's create. Now here's the folder. We're going to click the folder here. And this is my file path. Your file path is going to be different. So I'm going to go demo project. Now this is where I want the file to go. I don't want it to go into the stakeholder interviews folder. I want it to go into my process maps folder. And I actually have a subfolder of that is the unapproved drafts, because I definitely am not trusting completely my LLM is going to come up with the perfect response. I'm going to want to review it. I'm also going to want to review it with my stakeholder. If possible, I'm going to want to sit next to my stakeholder and make sure that the process that's been mapped out is the one that they use. This is confusing. Our file is not the Dropbox download file or even the ChatGPT file. We're going to use this map. And now with the file name, what are we naming the file? A couple things I want to do here. I want to make sure that I can tie my output, which is the business process, to the stakeholder interview it came from. And I want it to be a unique identifier that I can sort of figure out where and when I can find it. So what I do is I'm going to go back to our first module, which is the watch files, and I'm going to use the name from there. So that way I can tie it to that interview. And then I'm going to skip over the download a file. I'm going to go to ChatGPT, and over here, I'm just going to use this created at field. This is going to put the date and time that ChatGPT did the action on this. So this is going to make it unique, and it'll also give me some context. File content, most important part here, or certainly among the most important parts here. What is it that we want Dropbox to turn into a file? And the truth is that we want it to take the text output from the ChatGPT module, turn that into a file. So we're going to look inside this ChatGPT module here, looking at the result. We don't need the file name, but we do need the file data. Just going to put file data here. I'm going to click save. Now I'm going to auto align here, so you can see here are all 4 of our steps, which align with our original workflow plan. And before I run it, remember here, this is only running on future documents. So I'm going to go to my Dropbox. Here's my stakeholder interviews folder. I'm going to upload my file, which is a TXT file, because the docx files don't work very well in this. TXT file is uploaded. I'm going back to make.com. Now I can run this once. And you can see it's running. And you can see this little thing here says it ran ChatGPT in the process of running, and we are done. Look at that. So now let's go back to Dropbox. Let's see if it did save the file where we wanted it to go. Let's go to process maps. We go to unapproved drafts. There's a transcript that we just made, right? Just made it. If I click on it, it's going to show us what the output is. Here it is, step by step by step. 1, 2, 10, 12. Oh, 10 here is if, scrap, then disassemble. Like it's got it all there. It's pretty awesome. It needs to be reviewed, but this is cool. I should add, you can run this over and over again. It probably, because of the nature of ChatGPT, it's going to give a different number of steps, different steps. So you definitely want to review it to make sure it's as accurate as possible. So that is in there. Let's go back to make.com. We click here, we can see what that module did, how it found the path, found the file. This is where it outputted that file. And then here, which is the fun one, this is ChatGPT. I look at the prompt, I can see the system instruction, the user input, and then here's that stakeholder interview, all that raw text that we gave it. And over here is the output. Oh, sorry. Down here is output, hit result. Down here, these are the steps that it just made to create that file. So that is it. That's what we've done. We have automated process mapping from interview transcripts using make.com. If you have any questions, please let me know.